Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
Jagmeet Singh. Did I say that right?
Yeah, jug like hug.
All right, Jagmeet Singh.
Jagmeet Singh.
That's it. You got it.
You said you don't. Very interesting. You just say you don't drink out of plastic bottles. We're gonna get to who you are in a minute. But you just say you don't drink out of plastic bottles.
I don't.
Okay.
Single-use plastics, man, is one of the things that is polluting the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it doesn't make any sense that we would use something for one-time use that will never disintegrate. Like every single plastic toothbrush you've used since a kid is still around. Mm-hmm. Plastic does not break down. So I went to the west coast of Canada where plastics are a big deal, and a bunch of activists raised the issue, like, why are we using plastics for one use, single use? And then from then onwards, I made a commitment. I would never drink out of plastic water bottles, and I try to never use plastic bags. I try to use reusable bags, just a simple thing that we can do to reduce plastic usage.
Yeah, it's the reason, like, when you go to the beach, they don't give you plastic straws no more. You see people using them whack-ass paper straws. I hate paper straws, bro.
Yo, we don't even need straws. Just go straight with the cup.
Yeah.
Why do you use a straw anyways?
Yeah.
Unless you got lipstick or something, maybe that's an issue. I don't know.
I
don't even want to judge.
You're right. That is true.
Right?
Sometimes when you're waiting to do something and you have lipstick on, they give you a straw. But they also have metal straws now, too.
Yeah, those are pretty good. The metal straws are dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let me introduce Jagmeet Singh. He's running for Prime Minister of Canada.
Correct.
And you're a lawyer and a politician.
Correct.
Right? And what is it, the New Democratic Party?
That's right.
Okay, what is that exactly?
So it's like it would be like the AOC, Bernie Sanders type of Democrats. So we're the progressive, kind of the left party of Canada, third largest national party. And yeah, I'm the leader of the party.
I hear about you a lot from my guy, Humble the Poet, and I remember a video went viral of you maybe a month ago, or maybe a little longer, with a white guy was telling you to cut your turban off.
Yeah, that was about a month ago. You're right.
He said that would help you or something like that?
Yeah.
So a white guy told you to cut your turban off?
Yeah, but the thing is, the guy didn't just say, like, hey, man, maybe you should take your turban off. He literally said you should cut your turban off, which is kind of like a violent way to say it, too.
Yes.
But the thing is that, well, I just said, he's like, this is what, Canadians, you look more Canadian if you took off your turban or if you cut it off. And I said, you know what? Canadians look like a whole bunch of people. Like, Canadians look like all sorts. And that's a beautiful thing about this place. I think people should look like however they want to look. And in that moment, I didn't take offense. It is kind of an offensive thing to say, but he was an old guy. I think he was trying to give me advice. And I tried to see, I have this belief, my mom always taught me that we're all connected, we're all one. So I tried to see him as just a fellow human being that was trying to give me advice that wasn't the most positive advice. So I tried to come back with positivity. And then that moment went viral during the campaign.
What is the political climate in Canada, like the political social climate? Is it a lot of racism and?
There is. I would say we're not as divided as the States for sure. There's more, like it's actually very easy to say to people we should have, like, we already have a universal healthcare system, and I'm trying to say we should include medication coverage in that, and that's wildly popular. Like,
and
it's not hard.
Dental coverage.
Yeah. So the next thing I push for is dental coverage. And again, like, there was very little resistance to that. People believe that's the right thing to do.
I don't know. What just
that's
happened?
the Amber
I don't
Alert.
know.
That's an Amber Alert of a girl that was missing yesterday.
Oh, we all just got it.
Yeah, we all just got the Amber Alert. I don't know why they just put it out now. Maybe they found
That's
out.
for the young lady in the Bronx?
Yeah, the young lady in the Bronx.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's important. That's important. Everyone should check that alert out. This is gonna not air at the same time, so it's not gonna make any sense. Actually.
Nah, not at all.
No.
Okay.
No. So yeah. So in that sense, so Canada is pretty far along in the idea of wanting to take care of your fellow, your neighbor, take care of the person beside you. I think we're further along in that way. You could go to pretty conservative people and say, hey, shouldn't we include dental care and shouldn't we include medication coverage? And people would be pretty down with that. So it's not hard to pitch that. Whereas I find something as basic as saying, hey, shouldn't we all have healthcare coverage in a country as rich as Canada or the States? In the States, I find it's a little bit harder to make that argument. People kind of push back, which to me is a bit weird. I mean,
I think it's weird too because it's
kind of
such a
normal.
huge debate here about healthcare. I feel like everybody should have healthcare.
Yeah,
because that's
agree.
like a basic, necessity that we all
Totally.
need. That's the reason why people end up having financial difficulties.
100%.
It's also a $1 trillion business, though.
Yeah,
you know how
that's the
is.
thing.
You're cutting into people's profits.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Well, that's the pushback on so people like the idea of medication coverage, but
Large.
Who doesn't like it is big pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies. So on that end, I've been pushing it and getting blowback from them. They don't like it. which I don't really care if they don't like it because this is good for people. And my focus has always been, like, what do I do to make life better for people? And I chose a path which is the harder path. Like, normally in Canada, the two parties that win and form government are either the Conservatives or the Liberals. And they kind of are the status quo, the old boys clubs of politics. And the New Democratic Party were kind of the newer party, but also pushing things like, let's actually go beyond what we have and try to do something bigger, dream bigger.
Can a human rights activist really be a politician, though?
I believe so. I am. Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah,
a
they
politician should be that.
100%. 100%. I think the challenge is that there's a lot of barriers if you want to do the right thing. And for people who are just seeking to be in power, then yeah, it's probably tough to do that. Mm-hmm. But if your goal is just, my goal isn't, I'm not just trying to get in power for power's sake. I'm trying to do something meaningful. Mm-hmm. And if I can't get into a position to do something meaningful, then what's the point? Like, I don't want to just become prime minister just because. I want to do it because I want to change things. I want to fundamentally change the way things are, and I know it can be done.
So what's the first thing you want to do if you come in office, besides
if he
banning all plastic
minister?
Water bottles? But besides that, what do you want to do if you make it to office?
Well, I want to expand. I want to, do a lot of things. I want to expand our healthcare system. So I think that, kind of the Bernie Sanders idea of head to toe healthcare coverage, that's my dream. I shared in my book that my dad went through a lot of tough times with alcoholism. He lived with pretty horrible alcoholism. It got really scary at home. Things were really tough. A lot of scary times, violence. And he was a doctor, so he was pretty successful. He had access to private insurance. So he went away to rehab a couple of times, got better. But then he hit rock bottom and lost everything, lost his ability to practice, we lost our home, we lost a lot, and we didn't have any money. And at one point, he had gone to the hospital a bunch of times. And the hospital, the doctors were saying, listen, you're going to die if you keep on doing this. Your body can't handle it. He was at end-stage alcoholism where you stop eating food and you just drink. And that's your body can't actually accept food at one point. So he had dropped down in weight. And he, just by chance, sometimes it happens when you hit rock bottom, you decide you got to do something different with your life. So he said, I don't want to die. And we tried to find a center for him, and there was a publicly funded rehab center in the city of Windsor, fully publicly funded. We found a bed for him. And if someone wants help, there's like a small window of opportunity. Anyone's ever dealt with someone who's dealing with addiction. When they want help, if they don't get it at that moment, you might miss that window of opportunity. Mm-hmm. So he got the help because of that public funded center. And so that's why I believe it shouldn't be that you have to have private insurance to get into a rehab center, or you have to be lucky enough to have money to get into one. I'm only here today, my family's only here today because of publicly funded services like that rehab center that my dad went to. He's healthy now, he's practicing again, he's turned his life around, and it's because of that. So I really believe in really universal healthcare that covers everything, head to toe. I want to see us, I really believe that young people are afraid of the future because of the climate crisis, and I think we can do so much more. Mm-hmm. So I want to tackle the climate crisis like we want to win it, not just say the words, but actually do something about it. So that means reducing emissions. That means creating an economy that's more sustainable. So we can create jobs while we reduce our emissions. First people of the land, I want to make sure they're treated with respect. Indigenous people continue to have basic human rights violated, like they don't have water. That's messed up. Canada's a rich country. America's a rich country. I don't know how it is in America with drinking water, but there's far too many communities in Canada that do not have access to clean drinking water. And we're 2019, we can solve this problem.
You get a lot of backlash for that, though. I say for the money you're devoting to spending in order to give those indigenous people that clean drinking water. Why so much backlash?
I don't know. Some people don't think that basic human rights should be.
Some people feel like if it doesn't affect them, they don't really care, too.
Yeah. But I raised the issue. I'm like, if I got a lot of support for it as well, because I raised the issue. So let's say, I gave the example of Toronto, kind of like New York. If there was a drinking water issue in Toronto, would you ever ask the question, how much is it going to cost to clean the water? It's like, you just got to get it done. Right. So many people live here. We got to make sure that people have clean drinking water. So I was raising the question about clean drinking water, and then, I got a pushback saying, well, it's going to cost a lot, maybe we can't afford it. And I said, well, would you ever ask that question if drinking water, you're talking about, the capital of the country? Would you ever ask that question if you were talking about a major city? No, you wouldn't. So we shouldn't ask that question when it comes to the first people of this land.
We have that issue here too.
They got to get clean drinking water, basic.
In certain places. What about legalizing marijuana?
Yeah, we did it in the state.
It's legalized already.
It's legalized. Yeah,
all over the country.
All over the country, it's legalized. Yeah. Well, I want to go a step further though. I really think I was a criminal defense lawyer for a long time. So I represented a lot of people that were hard out, in a tough way. They were, folks that were marginalized, folks that didn't have money. And I represent a lot of kids and a lot of people that were charged with criminal offenses just because they possessed an illicit substance. They possessed some controlled substance. And I looked at the people that I represented, and they were dealing with poverty. They were dealing with mental health issues. They were dealing with addiction. And criminalizing people that are dealing with addiction is the most nonsensical thing to do. It makes no sense at all. So I've been saying that what we got to do is we got to stop treating use of drugs as a criminal problem and treat it as a healthcare problem, as an addiction problem. And that to me makes way more sense.
Absolutely.
Instead of putting all that money to putting people in jail, let's put that money into rehab, into healthcare, into supports. I think that's a much better solution. It'll make our society better. So that's something I would do as well.
Yeah, it makes no sense to treat the dealers the same way you treat the fiends.
Yeah.
The fiends have a problem.
100%.
Like the dealer is the one that's doing the criminal act.
Yeah. So people who are pushing it, like, the big dealers, yeah, for sure, they should be criminalized, but not the user. The user is someone who's struggling with a lot of things, like whether it's, like I said, either it's addiction or a combination of all three: addiction, poverty, mental health. So, I mean, you're never going to, if your goal is actually to make life better for people and to solve the problem, it's not going to be solved by putting folks in jail who are dealing with addiction. They're just going to continue to have those addictions, right? So that's something I pushed for that was a bit controversial, but I think the evidence is there for the healthcare experts. It's not controversial at all. Anyone who knows the system knows that it makes no sense at all to continue to do the same thing, hoping we'll get a different result. So I believe, the war on drugs is it's also a nonsensical war. It doesn't make any sense. If you want to make society healthier, make people healthier, then let's treat the root cause, which is those three things that I mentioned.
I have such misconceptions about Canada because I look at your website and it says you're building a fairer, more just Canada where everyone can realize their dreams. Like, I feel like Canada's that already because you hear about free college and free healthcare, but I'm clearly missing something. No.
So we got massively rising tuition fees. They're getting really, really expensive. Like, I shared kind of my personal story when we lost a lot, and my family went through a lot of financial difficulties. I was the eldest, so it was my job to take care of the family. So I was trying to figure out a way to get into a professional, job, a situation where I could take care and support my younger brother and sister and take care of my mom and dad. So I went the route of getting an education. And when I went to law school, I went to one of the best in Canada, and it was like $8,000 a year.
So it's not free college in Canada?
No, not at all.
Why did I think it was free college in
No,
Canada?
it's not free. It's not free. No. So it was $8,000 a year when I was, it was not too long ago, but, I got some grades. It was a little bit ago when I went to school. But now that same law school that I went to is almost $30,000 a year tuition. So in that same economic struggles that I was going through when we didn't have much, we didn't have a home to live in at that time, I would have never have been able to afford $30,000 a year. That's like $100,000 just for the tuition fee. So right now in Canada, they did a survey, asked people where they're at economically. They found that half of Canadians are just about $200 away from not being able to pay their bills. So like half the whole population. You meet people on the streets, every second person you meet in Canada has so many bills to pay, and
if
it's
something unexpected happens.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Expensive though too.
Oh yeah, hella expensive. I mean, maybe not as bad as Manhattan, but up there, like really. Yeah. So yeah, like a lot of Canadians are struggling. Things are like tough out there for people, for sure.
Now, what do you think about the current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau? You had to obviously you have a relationship with him, and you've met with him. So.
Yeah, we debated, during the campaign, and we've kind of gone face to face, toe to toe, but we also have tried to work together on things. I think that how do I put it? So I think he says a lot of the right things, and I give him credit for that. He says some nice things, but it's very different what he says publicly and what he does privately in terms of his policies versus what he says. So he says
politicians though.
I don't think it should be though. I think.
Like, give us some examples of things that he says that are good, but there's no action.
Yeah, like so he said that, the environment's the most important thing. We got to protect the environment, which I agree. Then he went out and bought a pipeline. Like, he spent our public dollars to buy, like, the Canadian government owns a pipeline, which is losing money and doesn't really make sense to have done that. Then, so that's a big contradiction. He held himself out to be this big environmentalist, but like, I don't know of many countries that have use public dollars to buy basically nationalize a pipeline. And it's pretty wild. He said that, healthcare is really important. And he promised to do this small thing that would have lowered the cost of medication. But his government met with the pharmaceutical lobbyists like hundreds and hundreds of times. And it was a small change. It was just changing the list of countries that we compare to when we're setting the price of medication. And after 4 years in government, he didn't do that thing. It was a really simple change. Just that the body that sets the prices said, hey, we can set better prices. We just need you to pass a law that gives us a new set of countries that we can compare to, and we can drop the price. In 4 years, he didn't do it. It was a pretty simple thing.
That's another thing I didn't know about Canada. So when you think free healthcare, you just assume that the medication and everything comes with it. I didn't know you had to pay for the medication.
So, I mean, Charlamagne, that makes a lot of sense because we're the only country in the world, the only one in developed nations in the world that's got a healthcare system that doesn't include medication. Because when you think about it, what happens in Canada, this is like, makes no sense. So you could go to the hospital, it's completely covered, it's free, which is amazing. Like, I'm really proud of that. But if you go into a doctor or a hospital and you find out, okay, you've got to take insulin, or you got diabetes, or you got some illness, you can't afford the insulin.
Wow.
You can't afford the medication.
Is it regulated at all, though, or can they charge anything?
No, the prices are okay. I mean, they are now going out of control a bit, but they're much more affordable in the States. But the problem is that when people go in and get diagnosed with whatever it is, they can get diagnosed. You can find out what's wrong with you, but then you can't pay for the treatment. So what happens is people would, like if you take the diabetes example, even type 1 where people are born with it, so they know what's wrong with them. They know they got to take insulin to stay healthy. They can't afford it. And what happens when you can't get the medication, you get more and more sick. So they end up in the worst case where their kidneys fail, but then dialysis is covered, and which is the most expensive procedure because you got to go in regularly. You got to go in every day for hours and hours. So the dialysis is covered, which is the most expensive procedure, but that could have been prevented if they would have had the medication in the first place. Right. So that's why we got to push for that. It makes no sense. That's why I really endorse what Bernie's saying. Like, it should be, the healthcare system should be head to toe coverage. Like, it should all be included. And yeah, there's gonna be pushback from the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. But like, at the end of the day, we've got to have the courage to stand up to people who are just trying to make a profit off of people. We got to say, we can make a decision that helps out people, that gives them a better healthcare system, that gives them a better quality of life. And like, we've got to draw a line somewhere and say, yeah, we're willing to push back against folks that don't care about the well-being of fellow human beings.
You're absolutely right, but it's very hard to do in capitalist societies.
It's tough. It can be done, though. It can be done. It's been done. Like, we did it. We had the same, like when we brought in universal healthcare in Canada, all the same arguments, right? Like, there was all sorts of companies saying, oh, you can't do this. We had the medical community pushing back. All sorts of folks pushed back, but then we won that fight and we got universal healthcare. Now we've got to take it to the next level, I think.
How do you look at Donald Trump?
Oh, man. I got in trouble before because I was a little too blunt about it, but I got to say, I mean, if you look at what a leader should do, what you'd expect of a leader, he is the exact opposite, right? A leader should be bringing people together. He continually tries to divide people. A leader should be finding ways to lift up the people around him. He's finding ways to tear people down. The treatment of people seeking asylum, ripping babies out of their mom's arm, giving trillions of dollars in tax cuts to the wealthiest people instead of helping out those who need it most. I mean, every single decision he makes is making life harder for people, is disrespecting human beings, and is just wrong. I mean, that's why I look at it.
How does you and your crew get viewed when y'all walking through New York, or just America in general? Because all y'all got on the turbans and the beards. Is there a lot of profiling amongst?
I'm gonna say we get a lot of love out here.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in New York, man.
It looks
New York
official.
Yeah. New York gives us love. I mean, beards are in or something, man. I don't know what it is.
Beard gang, yeah.
So we got beard gang strong, so it's cool. Me and my brother, when we roll up, we like to wear kind of colorful turbans too. Today I'm kind of wearing a little bit subdued, but I know people kind of like the look. Yeah. I think people appreciate a little bit of fashion out here in New York, right? So I think, but more importantly, I think there's a lot of, and people give New York a kind of a hard time saying it's a bustle city. So people are kind of like a bit always on the move. So they're not really trying to like chat with people. But I've always had really great experiences in New York. I got to say, maybe, once or twice we've had something negative. I come out to New York probably like twice a year. And maybe once we had some folks saying some, like yelling out Osama or something like that.
Right. How about in Canada? I know you've gotten comments about your turban, obviously, because it's visibly people can look at you and say,
yeah.
And we saw that viral video. But in general, how do people receive that?
I would say in general, it's warmth. You know, a lot of love, a lot of positivity. I mean, one of the things that I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was a kid, I would have never.
You was being honest the whole time.
No, I mean,
I'll be honest with you, just right now.
No, just right now, right? No, the whole time. But I mean, as a kid, I would have never imagined that I would ever be able to say the words, "I'm running for prime minister of the country I live in." Like, that's wild. And that's like, I never saw anyone look like me in that position. So that to me doesn't make any sense. But in the middle of the campaign, what just happened, what to me was even more mind-boggling is they were looking at, the polling was coming out, and they were saying who is the most popular leader right now. And I was the most popular leader in all the major polls. And I'm a bearded, turban, brown-skinned man. Wow. To be the most popular leader in a country that is not, I mean, it's a diverse country, but it's still not, it's not a majority racialized country. To be the most popular leader, to me, was like, wow, that gives me a lot of hope. And I gave a lot of people a lot of hope.
And that means a lot to kids that were like you when you were coming up to see somebody.
100%. Well, that's a beauty. You know, when I would go out in the campaign, I would go to communities and like little kids, like Somali kids would come up to me and be like, you know, thank you for doing this. You're doing it for me. You know, Asian kids would come up to me. You know, kids from different backgrounds, indigenous kids would come up to me. And to me, that was really special, that kid is going to grow up feeling like someone that kind of can relate to what they've been through, was running for prime minister, and at one point was like leading. It was pretty exciting.
So if you didn't see yourself as being able to be a prime minister when you were a child, like how did your life and childhood contribute to your vision and, you know, I guess values as a leader?
So I think two parts to it. One is that idea that I touched on a bit, that my mom always said to me that we're all one, that we're all connected. And I used to not really get what she meant by that, because I'm like, we're all different. We come from different places. Like, how does that make any sense? And as I grew up, you know, I really saw the truth to that. Like, we are all connected. Like, we're in this together. You know, no matter how different people look or how different people vibe, we actually have far more in common. There's so much more in common with anyone you meet. Like, even if someone seems like the opposite spectrum, as a fellow human being, you will find far more in common. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So that's kind of my foundation. Like, if we're all in this together and we're all literally one, like, I was taught as a kid to believe if someone else is suffering, then I'm suffering. And if I'm helping someone beside me, then I'm helping myself out. So that's a foundational belief. I went through some struggles. Like, I faced, you know, racism. I used to get in fights every single day. People would come up to me and like violently attack me for looking different. So like, Canada has lots of racism too. But and you know, I faced some personal struggles, and what it helped me realize was I wasn't alone. Like, just because I went through some tough things, a lot of people are going through tough things. And so I hope that I could use that, and I tried to use that experience of having gone through some of the struggles that people go through to connect with them. Like, you know what, other people always are continuing to face these problems, like not being able to pay the bills, or having gone through, you know, violence as a youth, or having faced, you know, difficult childhood or family, you know, stress, or, you know, I mentioned I was a survivor of sexual assault when I was a kid. You know, a lot of people go through these horrible things, and a part of what helped me, I think, be a better leader was to use those experiences as a way to connect to other people that have experienced that as well.
Now, do you still get attacked now though? Like, when you was having a debate or something and somebody was heckling you, and that's when the whole love and courage thing.
Yeah. A couple. The first time it happened was about 2 years ago. The first time it went viral across the world, like, at one point. Yeah, so I get people come up to me and say kind of negative things. But I always say, like, for me, people always ask me how I stay so calm. Yeah. You know, when someone comes up and says something really reckless, like one of the first viral things was someone came up and started saying, oh, you're a terrorist, you're in bed with Muslim Brotherhood, and kind of said all this stuff. And never once did I say I'm not a Muslim. I said, hey, that's wrong. But to that person, I said, hey, listen, you know, I responded to him with love, and I said, you know, maybe they're going through some struggles in their life. I want to know that they're accepted, they're loved. And people are like, yeah, well, how would you do that? I'm like, because if I was to say that I was not a Muslim, it would suggest that it's okay to attack that attack me that way if I was a Muslim, or to do it to someone else. I'm like, no, it's never the right thing to do. And I say, in my experience, you know, I face physical violence, and I trained a lot, and so I got a martial arts background, so I'm not afraid for myself physically.
Humble told me that. Humble told me that you will fuck somebody up.
Yeah, man, I used to get in a lot of fights back when I was a kid. And then I trained. Actually, I ended up falling in love with it. So I competed a lot in tournaments and some stuff on the streets too. But since I'm comfortable with myself, I know how to take care of myself. I was a lawyer, so I understand how to deal with myself in terms of my legal rights. I've been a leader politically for so long. So when I'm confronted with something, I put myself to a different standard. Like I can handle that in a different way. But I don't expect everyone to be who's confronted with someone who's saying hella reckless things to them to then respond with like kindness. Maybe someone's going to get angry back. Maybe you need to get angry to defend yourself. For me though, I take that path of love and courage because I got the privilege to do that. And I know that I can change people if I use love.
Right.
And
Why
so
do you think
that's my
that
goal.
phrase "love and courage" resonated so much, though? Because I mean, you said it a couple years ago, and it's the title of your book. Why that? Why those two words?
Yeah. You know, I gotta shout out my brother Mo, who helped develop that. He went through this like really deep process, asked me about my life and the things that I went through, and then we were thinking about it. It's like, you know what you've done in your life is basically a combination of that. Like when you go through, I was talking about when you go through hardships, sometimes you blame yourself. Like if you have someone in your family who's addicted, you sometimes think that it was your fault. Like if you would have done better in school, maybe they wouldn't have drank that day. Or maybe if you were, the house was cleaner, they wouldn't have got upset and started drinking. Or when, someone does something wrong to you when you're a kid, like assaults you, you think, oh, maybe I put myself in that position. I was my mistake. And so you stop loving yourself. You start to feel like, there's something dirty or wrong about you. So I think the first step to be able to go past those challenges is to be like, no, you should love yourself. You should love yourself unconditionally. And then through loving yourself, it takes courage to love yourself and to love others, and to want to, despite having been hurt by the world, to want to take care of the world. And so that's me. I'm love and courage all the way. Like I love the world, and I want to change it, and it takes courage to want to do that, to put yourself out, to even say things like that. People say it's cheesy to say things like love, but I think that's the most powerful force. Like even people who are angry at injustice are coming at it because deep in their hearts they love humanity, and so they're angry at the injustice because they love humanity. So
What's the Rihanna connection? I have to ask.
That was awesome. Can I tell you the funniest thing? When I found out, I didn't know. My wife calls me, and she's like, "This is the best day of my life." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Rihanna followed you." I'm like, "Sorry?" She's like, "This is the best day of my life." She says it again. I'm like, "How is this the best day of your life?" We got married. We had all these special moments together, right? And she's like, "This is the best."
She followed you.
Yeah, and she followed me, right? So anyways, it was cute though. But so I don't during the campaign we were doing a lot of things, talking about Indigenous rights, talking about human rights, talking about building a better world, and so we got hit with the follow, and then I reached out and I sent a DM message, and I said,
"Damn,
what's
you got
up?"
Rihanna's DMs. How'd your wife feel about that?
DMs?
She was encouraging it, man. She was like, "This is good." But then she sent back a really positive, supportive message saying, "Keep doing what you're doing. It's good." And I really appreciated that. It was good. We got a lot of love. Like Boy Wonder, who was responsible for a lot of the hit tracks, like One Dance.
A lot of Drake stuff.
Yeah, a lot of Drake
But see,
stuff.
I would understand him because
out.
he's in Toronto.
Yeah, of course.
Like
yeah.
Rihanna's.
I don't know. It was cool, man. I wasn't complaining. It made like big headlines in Canada.
Yeah, it's
We
a
got
big deal.
It was good. I was happy with that.
So
we got a bunch of good, cool folks. Jillionaire came out. He's from the States too. Supportive.
Does Drake get involved at all?
Yeah, he hit me with the follow.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool. His squad though, I mean, OVO 40. So like a lot of people say the architect behind the sound, right? 40 is like, I don't know. We look at him like, that's the guy. He's the next level. Noah Shabib. So he reached out and he came to one of my rallies, and man, I was saying like Noah Shabib for 2020. That guy gave a speech that was so good. 40 is really progressive and really cares about people. So he came out really, really solidly supporting. Drake, I think he's got limitations where he's at. So he did the fall, which I appreciated. But 40 came out, was really supportive, and attended the rally and spoke and talked about the idea of dreaming bigger. Like we can do big things if we come together. So
when is the election?
Cool. So election happened October 21st. So it just passed. We're now 2 months past, but we're in a minority government right now.
Okay.
So what that means is another election could happen at any time. So we're kind of back in an election mode.
So hold on, they already voted for prime minister candidate?
Yeah. So the prime minister got reelected.
Yeah. Justin Trudeau
got reelected, but he got reelected in a minority government. So what that means is he doesn't have enough votes for the government to continue. So every vote that comes up could mean that the government could fall and we could be in another election. So
Wow.
yeah.
So they can still vote for you, basically.
100%. We're right now in this kind of like a pre-election period again, and they say minority governments last between 1 to 2 years. So we're in year 1 of that. So we're kind of like in a pre-election again.
So what do they do to go? They still got to get up and go to the. I don't know how it works in Canada. They got to get up and go to a ballot box, or they?
Yeah. So the way it works is, when you vote, you go. In our system, you don't vote separately for the prime minister and for your representative. Mm-hmm. You vote for both at the same time, and you can't separately vote for the prime minister. What you do is, people vote for the party in every county, every riding, and if you win the most counties, the most ridings, then you become prime minister. So that's the way our system works.
Wow, so it really matters everybody who's on the ballot, because if I don't like this person, but I like. Yeah,
so it is that happens sometimes. So people might like the local representative from one party, but might like me as a leader, for example. Mm-hmm. So then they kind of have to figure out, okay, do I want to support the leader, and so I vote for the party, or do I vote for the particular local person? Exactly. So it's a bit of a debate sometimes about, we look at the American system, sometimes say, some of it makes no sense, like the electoral college kind of bit.
Yeah, I agree. That makes no sense.
Right. But then some of it's kind of cool, like the idea that you can vote separately for who you want to run the country. Mm-hmm. That might make some sense.
So we need people to go out and vote for Jagmeet Singh right now. They can do that.
They can do it soon. Potentially in the next year, 2 years. Kind of like in the States, I noticed people campaign like way ahead of the election. So I'm trying to hit the ground running and get ready for the next time. And so people can come out and vote for me again soon.
But I get the sense it's bigger than politics for you, though. This is about you just like people. You'd be doing this work regardless.
100%. I don't know how you can tell that, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, for sure. I didn't want to get into this world, to be honest. I was thinking, I was a lawyer and I was helping out people and I enjoyed that, and I would do some community work on the side. But really it came down to it. It was a lot of dear friends and my brother that pushed me and said, no, this is not good enough. You got to do more. And our mom always said that when you are surviving, you just try to think about getting by. But once you're stable and you're trying to thrive, then truly thriving means to give back to the people around you. And so my brother kind of hit me with that a bit and said, if you want to thrive, that means giving back. And he kind of guilt tripped me out of being a lawyer, saying, it's too, it's too individualistic. You got to help out the community. So I tried to resist him, but he finally worked, and then I caved in. And now it's been an incredible journey. Like I really feel it's personally rewarding, like to be on this journey, but most importantly, I feel like I'm helping out people, and that means a lot to me.
Word. Well, it's Jagmeet Singh. He's got a book out called Love and Courage, My Story of Family, Resilience, and Overcoming the Unexpected. It was a pleasure meeting you, my
Thank
brother.
you, man.
Give me your
pleasure.
Twitters and Instagrams and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I'm the Jagmeet Singh on Instagram. Or no, sorry, the Jagmeet Singh on Twitter and Jagmeet Singh on Instagram.
How do you feel about Nick Cannon wearing turbans all the damn time?
I kind of think it's cool, man. He's like demystifying it a bit. I think it's so in Sikh tradition we don't have any concern about like appropriation that way. Like if people want to wear a turban, it's all good. It's all love. We actually have days sometimes when I was younger in university, we used to do these things. Now they still happen where you can come and get a turban tied on and see what it's like, and like you can rock it if you want. We say respect it afterwards, but yeah. So people, it's cool.
Okay,
I'm down with it.
Word. It's Jagmeet Singh. It's the Breakfast Club.